Ever since their inception, third-person shooters have come a long way not only in their graphical fidelity, but also in their mechanics in addition to their storytelling. However, with many shooters saturating the market these days, it's easy for developers to fall back on specific mechanics in hopes the product will sell well, which makes it harder for us gamers to identify titles that intend to stand out from the rest. Developed by Platinum Games and released in 2010 for the PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360, Vanquish is an engaging third-person shooter that takes inspiration from other titles to form its own experience, even if the story leaves a lot to be desired.
Need a bit more intel than that.
In Vanquish, the world's population has increased to astronomical levels that left many countries to scrounge for resources. As a result of this, the United States decided to construct a space colony called the Providence, which is powered by solar energy in hopes to resolve the crisis, as well as alleviate the population issue. However, when the station is seized by a terrorist group called the Order of the Russian Star, under the command of Viktor Zaitsev, Mark Worden, they use the solar energy as a weapon beam to target San Francisco, and would strike New York if the United States doesn't surrender. Because of this, President Elizabeth Winters, Lee Merriweather, assembles Robert Burns, Steve Bloom, and his task force called Bravo Company to secure the station and prevent another US attack. You play as Sam Gideon Emery, a researcher from DARPA, or Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency, to join the operation. Equipped with the Augmented Reaction Suit, or ARS in short, Sam is tasked to assist the assault as well as rescue a scientist who works on the station when the attack happened. Judging how the story is structured, Vanquish is very similar to the 1999 game Silent Bomber, where the protagonist and his allies have to infiltrate a space vessel to prevent a catastrophe from happening. However, like that game, the story comes packaged with some cheesy dialogue and mixed voice acting. There's hardly any character development, as the main characters don't evolve throughout the story, and it doesn't help that you don't feel any sense of danger towards Sam, no matter how many times he escapes from near-death scenarios. Throughout the game, Sam is accompanied by Robert Burns, the squad leader of Bravo Company, as I mentioned earlier. He doesn't change throughout the story, as he comes off as a one-dimensional character, and due to the dialogue they spew out, it makes their distrust to one another come off contrived. As such, I didn't like Burns not only because he's a one-dimensional character, but he even goes out of his way to put his fellow men in jeopardy as far as their vitality are concerned. As for the villain, Viktor Zaitsev comes off as a generic antagonist, as all he wants is the United States to surrender. If the story was written to complement with the theory of humans overpopulating the planet and the side effects it could raise, it would have made a much more interesting narrative. However, it unfortunately boils down to another America versus Russia storyline, which has been featured in other games within its genre. It also trivializes the theme it's going for, as the opening cutscene illustrates ordinary people living their lives as normal. Vanquish tries to set up the revelation where it attempts to make you feel betrayed, but you don't due to the thinly written characters and the fact this plot twist can be spotted in advance. Plus, it doesn't help that Lee Merriweather's acting as President Winters sounds mundane when she's speaking to her fellow Americans, which is strange since you would think she would have a sense of urgency considering the nation is threatened by a weapon of mass destruction. Overall, the story's not the reason you play Vanquish, but its gameplay makes up for the lackluster narrative.
This is gonna be fun.
As I mentioned earlier, Sam is equipped with the Augmented Reaction Suit, which allows him to either slide around the battlefield at high speeds or use his suit to slow down time to take accurate shots. Moreover, if you take too many hits, the suit will automatically put you in slow motion, which gives you the time to either retaliate or find nearby cover. However, if you overuse this trait, the suit would overheat, which will slow your mobility in addition of making you vulnerable for a short period of time. Despite this, you can have a lot of fun with this mechanic, and this is helped by the tight controls. While they can be awkward to get used to, and the fact there's no option to remap specific buttons to suit your playstyle, darting from cover to cover in addition to slowing down time to shoot your enemies is satisfying, not to mention the suit is a godsend if you get caught off guard. Vanquish isn't all about the suit your protagonist inhabits. The game gives you multiple weapons you can switch between on the fly, and all of them can be upgraded to increase their stopping power, ammo capacity, and improve their accuracy. While you have your standard assault rifle, sniper rifle, light machine gun, and shotgun, the game features other creative firearms such as those that can fire plasma balls to knock your opponents down, or a weapon that can fire discs instead of bullets. Sam is also armed with frag and EMP grenades, but due to the quantity of enemies you have to face, as well as the frantic pace of the gameplay, I found the EMP grenades were more effective. Not only it disables your adversaries for a short time, the blast radius is so big it can be used for crowd control. As such, I wish the developers could have balanced the frags to make them more effective, or tone down the power which the EMPs provide. Granted, both are upgradable assuming you're full on these ordnance to begin with, but the difference is subtle compared to the other weapons at your disposal. At certain points you'll encounter bosses that you'll have to eliminate, and some of them feature quick time events. Although it's understandable how they are considered moot these days, but due to the fast paced nature of the game, I consider it more as a blessing than a curse, especially when you factor in they only happen for specific skirmishes. Overall, the bosses were engaging in addition of keeping you on your toes, even if you end up facing them more than once.
2 of them this time?
As far as the graphical fidelity is concerned, the game does a fairly good job in terms of giving a sense of scale, and this is complemented with the intense firefights you'll be getting into. The character models are good, and the lip sync animations are on point. While Vanquish isn't the most graphical game from the 7 console generation, there are many set pieces that occur, like a starship crashing down while you fight, as well as running across a collapsing bridge. Also, it's very satisfying to watch and eliminate your foes in bullet time while you see projectiles fly in all directions. Unfortunately, due to the amount of chaos happening on screen, the game occasionally does have a difficult time to maintain a steady frame rate, especially after boss encounters. Also, the game is short as it can be finished within 7 to 8 hours depending on the difficulty, and while you can play previous levels you've already played, the upgrades you've acquired aren't permanent, meaning you can't revisit levels with your improved gear, which inhibits its replay value. Granted, the game does offer challenge maps where you can test your combat skills in order to see how long you can survive, but in the end it boils down to utilising the same mechanics. Finally, the mission where you have to shoot out spotlights to remain undetected fell out of place considering the game's fast-paced nature. While I might be nitpicking on something that only happens as a one-off, I didn't find it enjoyable as I felt I was going through the motions while I was moving from point A to point B.
If you say so.
Otherwise, Vanquish is an entertaining shooter that takes the conventional mechanics from other titles in its genre and fuses them to create its own experience. In a nutshell, it has the cheesy storytelling of Silent Bomber, the cover and shooting mechanics of Gears of War, the quick time events of God of War, and the bullet time effects from Max Payne. Vanquish was set to have a sequel, but unfortunately it's unclear whether Platinum Games is producing a follow-up for this IP, which is ironic as the game got so much praise upon its release. The chances of a sequel may not be fully vanquished, but this hidden gem is still worth checking out.
Our business here is done. До свидания.
No!